So I'd like to go ahead and call the meeting to order for the special call meeting for Monday, August 17th, 2020. So I guess I will entertain a motion to adopt the agenda.
I make a motion to adopt the agenda.
30 seconds.
I second.
Okay, I'm gonna call the roll. Lapine,
Yes.
Lindsay,
Yes.
Coach V,
Yes.
Cotton,
Yes.
Clark,
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes.
Motion approved unanimously.
Okay. So I think we'll hear from Brandy James for the financial report.
Good afternoon, everyone.
The United States Department of Agriculture has seized McDonald's production and shipping and
Brandy, you went on mute. We can't hear you.
I apologize. I had to turn off something in the background. Actually, today, what I'm going to talk about is not necessarily a board update that I typically give at our board meetings. I'm actually going to give an update on our fiscal 2021 budget outlook. So before I begin, I want to start out with 3 quotes. 1, the budget is not just a collection of numbers, but an expression of our values and aspirations. Secondly, the slightest adjustments to your daily routines can dramatically alter the outcomes in your life. Lastly, you don't have to see the whole staircase just to take the first step. And the reason I share these 3 quotes is because I want to start the discussion off with the fiscal year 2021 budget was ultimately drafted and approved and reflects the values of the commission. However, due to external forces, we did obviously have to adjust that budget. And when I say external forces, I'm referring to the 10% budget reduction, as well as the COVID-19 pandemic. While both of those forces have created a challenge, we do or can work together to meet the challenge. And today is that first step by going over our budget one more time, just to give everyone again a refresher, a snapshot of what that budget looks like, and also to discuss what those challenges are. So again, what I plan on presenting to you today is a budget snapshot. We're also going to look at some budget trends and analysis, and then I'm also going to discuss with you our fiscal year 2021 budget forecast. So our budgeted revenue allocation for fiscal year 2021, as you are aware, our total budget is $18 million. That revenue has been allocated. About 80% of that is going to be coming from our property tax revenues, or $14.8 million. But we also have some additional other revenues that are budgeted of approximately $3.2 million. And that other revenue is what we're going to talk about again further in this discussion. So what you have here on this slide is a breakout of that revenue allocation between property tax revenues and that other revenue amount. And I've given you this information for 2 budget years, as well as our current budget year. So as you'll notice, the $3.2 million that we have budgeted for fiscal year 2021, that additional revenue, the mass majority of that additional revenue is coming from our program revenues. Specifically, our parks and rentals, so that's the rental of our facilities, our recreational programs, that includes our instructor-led classes, our athletic programs, and our youth camp programs, which includes our after school as well as our summer school programs. You'll notice for fiscal year 2020, we budgeted approximately $3.8 million in other revenues, but because of our closures for COVID-19 and other rental refunds and lost revenue, you'll notice that we only realized approximately $1.1 million in that additional other revenues for fiscal year 2020. So as we think about the impact COVID-19 has had on our budget, we know that obviously it has had an impact on our fiscal year 2020 budget, but what we're going to see further in this discussion is the potential impacts it can continue to have on our fiscal year 2021 budget. So I'll stop right there for any questions. Are there any questions on anything that I've discussed so far? Okay, if not, I'll move forward. What you have here is a budget forecast, and this is as of August 2020. This is a fiscal year 2021 budget forecast. And so what I've tried to do here is try to project what our total revenues and expenses will be, given our current state of closures at our buildings and what we anticipate doing in the future. And so our administrative revenue, again, that is mainly our property tax revenue and some other additional administrative sources. And then our program revenue, again, is what I have outlined in the previous slide, which includes our recreational programs and other athletic programming revenue. So you'll notice that for July and August, obviously we do not have any program revenue realized. Going forward with the anticipation of opening back up possibly in September through June, I am projecting some program revenue, but this program revenue that you have there, that forecast is slightly lower than what we're typically seeing in a normal budget year. And so, for example, typically our rental revenues as well as our after school revenues typically run between $30,000 and $40,000 a month. However, this forecast does not necessarily reflect that at this current moment. What this forecast does is serve as kind of a baseline of where we can start to begin projections. But I wanted to at least provide you an update of where we are currently and know that we will update this as we move on throughout the budget year. Our total expenses, those figures reflect us actually spending approximately $1.4 million per month and project us spending or having expenditures of about $1 million. Again, that's what we budgeted for fiscal year 2021. So with this projection, you'll see that for every month, with the exception of January and February, we are actually running a deficit or projected to run a deficit and could possibly have approximately $2 million deficit by the end of the fiscal year. Now, the reason that is important is because it does impact our fund balance. And so to explain again what fund balance is, that again is the excess of our assets and liabilities. And the reason why it is important is for governmental agencies is because it does provide a measure of financial resources for a governmental fund. And it's important for governmental agencies to maintain an adequate level of fund balance to help mitigate current and future risks. So the next slide that you'll see there, let me go back, I'm sorry. Before I leave this slide, I want to also point your attention to what we're projecting to be that fund balance. As of June 30th, Given this forecast, fund balance to be approximately $4.5 million. You'll notice that we started out with the fund balance first at 9.9 million. So obviously, as forecasted here, the revenues and expenditures, if we don't meet that $3.2 million projection in other revenue, that will have a significant impact on what we project will be our fund balance by the end of this fiscal year.
Randy,
Yes.
this is Rob. So I just gonna ask a quick question. So can you go back to that slide?
Sure.
So at the beginning of about a month ago, let's just say, our fund balance is essentially, month and a half ago, is 8,744,000, right?
Actually, we started off at 9.9 million, and that's
Excuse me. All right.
July. Yes.
All right. But then at the end of July, we were at 8,744,000, correct?
Right. Now, this is a forecast. So this is what we're forecasting that number to be based upon our forecasted revenues and expenditures.
Okay, but to get that actual number for July 31st, 2020, how long does it take you to actually reconcile and get that number?
We are actually in the middle of going through our closeout currently. And so when I say closeout, we're closing out the fiscal year. So that's July 2019 through June 30th, 2020. And closing out July. So I anticipate having a better number for July, beginning of next month. But keep in mind, we also have to have our auditors come in, and there's some other adjustments that we work with our auditors on that will impact that fund balance number. And they're not scheduled to come in to conduct our fiscal year 2020 audit until the latter part of next month. So
but just,
oh, go ahead.
but basically the way that this fund works, just in looking at it again, and for fellow commissioners, and tell me if I'm wrong, that if we have a shortfall, then you're pulling money from this fund to make up the difference,
right?
To get us to basically even for the
right.
month. So we're not running in,
right.
The red essentially, right?
Right. So that's why when I provided the definition of a fund balance, it is the measure of financial resources for a governmental bodies, because if there is a shortfall, if there's a shortfall in revenues or an increase in expenses, having adequate reserves allows us to be able to meet those or mitigate those risks.
So the troubling numbers, though, to me, are the July 2020 number end balance, and then the end of June next year forecasted number, correct?
Right.
So you're talking about a $4,100,000 potential deficit next year.
That's potential, right? Again, keep in mind, this is a baseline forecast, so we are working with our team members to potentially not have that shortfall in revenue, because these amounts or these figures are calculated based upon us not meeting that $3.2 million other revenue number that we have budgeted.
Well, that's kind of where I was going to go, because if you go to the previous slide, again, if you go back to that, no, not that one, but the one two before that.
Sure.
So then for the other commissioners too, it's like looking at program revenue, right? That's where the big deal is looking at actuals versus what we're budgeting. For instance, sponsorship grants, my question would be, how do you, if we're at 180, how are we going to forecast to be up $380,000 in 2021 in sponsorships? Where is that money coming from?
That includes sponsorships and grants. And so part of that $551,000 number includes a PARD grant, which is approximately $350,000. So, and then there are other additional grants that we have slated to apply for, one of which is a conservation grant, and I think that's worth $10,000. And there's additional grant opportunities out there. So,
But what I'm saying is, the bottom line though is, this is the key for the future though, is meeting these revenue allocation numbers.
correct.
And so that's what's so scary to me. And then you can go back to the next slide now that you just had.
Right. And part of the reason we're having this discussion is to also talk about that $3.2 million. As we're starting the budget cycle, this is where we need to have those discussions to make sure that, right now, obviously we're not on target to meet it, but to see what we can do to get on target to meet those, to come as close to that $3.2 million number as possible.
So we just as a board, I guess, and I'll let you finish up. I'm just saying that it just looks extremely perilous to me or we have a fiduciary responsibility as a board. And if things did trend exactly like the way you're doing it, then I think it's important to note that the following year, we would be in a really bad situation if trends continue. I don't think they will, but whoever thought we'd be here today talking like we are.
Well, right.
So I just think it's hard to, it's going to be something we have to keep a close eye on as a board. That's all I'm saying. Thank you.
I will say I am very concerned because I do not believe that we will be done with COVID at this time next year. I think we're going to still be dealing with a lot of COVID situations and issues. So I do think we do need to plan and start projecting for probably the next 18 to 24 months. And if we end up in a better situation, then great. But I think we have to consider that and create financial projections to take that into account. That's my thoughts.
Okay.
Thank you. That's good.
Thank you, Commissioner That is why it was very important for me to have Brandy bring this to you today. She brought this to the leadership team about 2 weeks ago. And so this was perfect timing because we wanted to get ahead. We did not want to come to you in December sharing this. So we are working together, strategizing, reviewing all the programs that were previously budgeted, looking at their revenue projections, and we would hope that we can plug some of the concerns towards the end of the year. But we will keep you abreast at each one of the board meetings, and we'll bring you ways that we feel that we may need to make some adjustments in order to meet our budget projections.
That's why you guys are the best, because you're being proactive about this and taking the time to make sure that we're ahead of the game. I appreciate it. Thank you.
You're welcome, sir. Brandy?
Sure.
Sorry to interrupt.
Oh, that's okay. That's okay. So what this slide, to your point, Commissioner Lapine, what this slide provides you is the general fund balance trend for about 10 years. And so you'll notice that beginning in 2012, we started at, and this is as of June 30th, excuse me, we started at approximately $5 million in our general fund balance as of June 30th that year. And then you'll notice as we move further in this trend, we were up around about $9 million in 2018. Again, we're projected to be $9 million in 2020, but based upon the projections that I have now, again, that could potentially be down to $4.5 million, which we hadn't seen that level since approximately fiscal year 2015. The other two slides that I have for you are some financial stability ratios that I actually do look at to kind of help us make sure that we are on track and healthy financially. And one of those is our operating reserves ratio. And you'll see here, this ratio helps us to see where we are as far as being able to cover unforeseen increases in operating expenses or declines in income. And you'll notice that for fiscal year 2019 and fiscal year 2020, we obviously had a pretty healthy operating reserves ratio. And that was in part because we had a pretty healthy fund balance. But you'll notice that if we continue on this current trend that we're on and what I'm projecting, that reserve can actually go down to 25%. And why this is important is because the lower that ratio is, the harder it will be for the commission to meet any potential, emergencies or any type of unforeseen expenses that may come up in the future. So again, that's why we're having this discussion today, to hopefully not meet the forecast that I have presented to you today, but again, get as close to that $3.2 million revenue figure as we can. The other ratio that I look at as well is our days cash on hand. And this kind of goes hand in hand with our operating reserves. And so this kind of gives us a measure of how long we can actually meet our operating expenses without receiving new income. And this was very important for us starting in March. You'll notice in fiscal year 2019 and fiscal year 2020, we had approximately 244 days of cash on hand and 211 days of cash on hand. That was important for us because that was how we were able to continue to maintain and pay out certain expenses without any new additional income. But if we continue on this trend that we're on currently, that number gets whittled down to 115 days, and that will obviously be very concerning for us because we strive to have at least 180 days of cash on hand. So in conclusion, as I've shared with you, and I'm sure you're noticing that the fiscal year 2021 budget outlook is challenging, but there are some things that we're doing to meet that challenge. So I think someone had mentioned forecasting and modeling. We are paying close attention to our budget. So we are producing some forecasts and some modeling. There could be some potential revisions and also some additional potential budget reductions as we get further in the year. Another thing I want to mention is that we might have some additional funding that we're eligible for. Under the CARES Act, special purpose districts along with other state and local governments are eligible to apply for reimbursement for COVID-19 related expenditures through June 30th. And so we will be providing requesting reimbursement for those expenses by the end of the week. I think the deadline to request that reimbursement is this Friday. So we are working together to get that information, and hopefully we'll hear back soon once we have requested that reimbursement. Again, 2021 is going to be a challenging year. COVID-19 and trying to budget it's been pretty difficult, but we are to continue to monitor the budget, continue to keep you abreast, and be proactive in meeting the challenge that we have before us. That's all I have today.
Brandy, can I ask you one more question? Were we eligible to do the payroll protection as a governmental agency?
No, we did not qualify as a small business under the PPP Act. That's typically for private companies, companies that are for profit. There was some, in the CARES Act, they did make an exception specifically for nonprofits, but as a governmental agency, we did not meet the SBA's definition of a small business, so no.
And we are the only state in the continental US that the special purpose districts actually are able to go after the funding through the CARES Act. Our state legislators worked really hard to see and to ensure that we had that opportunity. So it's something that we don't take lightly, and we do appreciate the leadership for acknowledging the work that special purpose districts do.
And then lastly, the reimbursement that we are going to request come Friday. Right now, we have identified approximately $202,000 worth of COVID-19 related expenditures through June 30th. But that's all I had for you today if there's no other questions.
Thank you, Brandy.
Sorry about that. So I think next is either Lakita or Matt. Christian will talk about the volleyball proposal that we all received. And whoever wants to take it from there, be good.
Yes. Thank you, sir. This is a very brief presentation, but we felt that it was very important to bring it to the board because it was an unsolicited proposal that was sent directly to RCRC and to the board members. We started having some dialogue, doing some research, and Matt Christman, if you don't mind going ahead and sharing your screen, we just want to share with you an overview. I know you probably looked at the document. We just want to summarize that document and then provide you with a recommendation, not for a vote, but something to move us forward later on. So Matthew, thank you. And here we are.
All right. Thank you, commissioners, this afternoon for the opportunity to discuss the volleyball complex. Moving forward, so the volleyball complex came to us, and the private entity is looking to do volleyball, but I think that we can also do other sports, basketball, pickleball, futsal, and that. But I'm going to just focus on volleyball today. So the purpose of the volleyball complex, there is no venue in the Midlands that can host a multi-volleyball tournament. What I mean by that is, yes, there are indoor facilities that have 2 courts, but there's nothing more than 2 courts. So this would be a minimum of 4 courts to try and bring in volleyball tournaments to the Midlands. And then youth travel sports is a $10 billion industry, and it grows 10% every year. Obviously, with COVID, that has decreased, but with everything that's going on right now, travel sports are being conducted in a safe manner, but the volleyball tournaments are still being conducted. The travel tournaments are still being conducted as we speak. So another purpose, it's a 6-court facility. It has the same footprint as a high school baseball field. There are more high school aged females playing volleyball than soccer, softball, and basketball. Collegiate volleyball is the fastest growing female Division I sport. And in the state of South Carolina, male volleyball just recently got supported by the state association. And talking with the individual that brought this forward, he said that they were anticipating 40 schools to do that in the first year, and they actually got over 50. It was like 56 schools said that they would have a male volleyball team. So it's not just, the purpose of this facility isn't just for females, it's for everybody. It's for high school males, and it's for high school, it's for youth. It's also for the rec side as well, to do rec leagues and have a facility that they can go to and make sure that they have the proper facilities to have multiple leagues going on, along with clinics and camps and that sort. So the economic impact of a facility like this is between, if we had a 6 to 8 court facility, you could bring in 64 teams per tournament, and your average spending for that tournament for hotel rooms, gas, food at restaurants is $928,000. So depending on how many tournaments we could do in the year, your total economic impact is ranging between 2 to 6 million. By doing, if we did 2 tournaments, it would be a little bit less. But if we did 5 tournaments, we would be closer to the 6 million of the total economic impact. So, like I said, this is just an overview of what you guys, what the packet has said in previous that you have. So there are different concepts for this facility. So you can have where one building is strictly volleyball, and then you see at the top of the screen, you have the back building that could be basketball. So then when you have a tournament, you could transform those facilities into either basketball or volleyball. So you could actually have 12 courts of volleyball or 12 courts of basketball. And then the outside outdoor beach volleyball, that is something that that's not in our inventory or amenities that Richland County has currently. And that would be, and beach volleyball is one of the fastest growing sports as well in the collegiate athletics as well in the last 5 years. And then at the bottom, you have a concept for tournament seating, and then you have the mezzanine area for that as well for viewing. So it's not where everybody's just on top of each other on the sidelines. You have it spaced out. And then you have the campus style where you have your buildings, and then you might have an aquatic center or another form of recreation at the same facility. So you have your buildings for the volleyball and basketball, but then you have the aquatic side where you can have multiple tournaments going on at the same time. So the economic impact is even greater for that. And it gives the citizens a one-stop area for recreating in Richland County. And then at the right, you see that you could have a fitness center as well in this facility, where it could be with, you have your fitness for trying to train the girls or boys that are at the facility for doing volleyball, or it could be maybe open to the public where there's a fitness center and the parents they sign up for a membership because they're at the facility 3 days a week because their daughters or sons are participating in the league or in the program, so they can get a chance to work out while they're waiting for their sons or daughters to be done. And then that was all I had for the presentation. I just wanted to give a quick overview of the information. I didn't want to go too in detail because I just want to make sure that it's something that the commissioners would want to pursue going forward, and I can get more into detail on that.
Thank you, Matthew. This was Matthew's inaugural presentation, and unfortunately you guys don't get to see his face, but hopefully we'll be back together soon. Matthew started this process for us because Matthew has the most experience on my team with coordinating national tournaments from his previous position. Well, we recognize that this is something new. We're not asking for a board vote. However, it's something that we would like to pursue as a part of investigating during our next year 10-year plan update, which would allow us the opportunity to look at everything that we currently have in our inventory and to also identify gaps and then identify facilities for future planning. But because this was sent to us, we felt that it was important to share this information with you all and receive any feedback or any questions regarding this presentation. Again, thank you, Matthew, for your hard work and researching and even meeting down with the Conventions Bureau for Tourism here in Columbia. And now we don't, as I shared, Mr. Chairman, we're not requesting a vote. We just wanted to present this to you because it was sent to us by a citizen and then also forwarded by a member of the delegation. So I thought that it was important to at least bring you up to speed in case you are questioned about that in your outings and things of that nature.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you. I see that the presentation has changed a little bit since I looked at the packet. I actually like this presentation way better than it was in the packet. So, so I appreciate the addition because we don't have any sports-specific facilities in Richland County at all. And I think with, because I didn't like it in the packet in terms of it was only volleyball.
Of course.
But here, because I know I played AAU basketball, and that's $1 billion industry. So, if we had something that accommodated, AAU basketball for boys and girls, some volleyball, boys and girls, and the swimming and all that stuff. So I think that would be, that's an awesome opportunity for Richland County, and not just for Richland County, for the entire state, because make no mistakes about it, people will be traveling all over the state to come here to utilize those facilities because it looks like it'll be some sort of a state-of-the-art type thing. In terms of what I read in the packet, though, in terms of who will be managing it and the partnership and all that, I would have some future questions about that.
Of course.
But I think this is definitely a good start.
Thank you, Commissioner Johnson. The comments that you just made were my first comments as well, knowing that multi-use and access would be a better opportunity than just a single use. So that's something that we talked to the individual about. And of course, from an operating standpoint, there would be several contracts and agreements if this were to happen, but we just wanted to at least bring this to your attention because you did receive the information, and that you may hear more about it as we get into our 10-year planning. And from right now, we don't need anything, but we did want you to know where we were. We have not made any promises. We've just been doing research, analyzing data, comparing like facilities so that we can at least provide you, when it's time, with the most knowledgeable recommendation.
Thank you, ma'am.
Just want to echo the comments of Jermaine and just say that I think this is something that we really need to try and get moving with, because this is something that nobody else has in our area, and I think it could really be a difference maker for us. So I think we just need to keep pushing with it and seeing what's realistic.
And I just want to end with, we saw what Brandon said right before we got started. So I am thinking of ways and how.
Yeah, we broke.
She's just a little concerned, but I'm just always thinking of not just the year, but what will be our 3 to 5 year plan? Because in all due honesty, we did see some cutbacks in tourism and sports tourism, but there were still some things that happened. Rock Hill actually hosted, right in the midst of COVID with no spectators, a national cornhole tournament in their facility, which brought millions into that community. So I know it's something different. I know that it's new. We're not asking for anything today, but we will bring you back something that will be more inclusive.
So just from my standpoint, I echo what the other commissioners said, but even more importantly, I mean, one other thing is, the beach volleyball, I don't know how hard it would be to prepare courts, but anything that's simple that we can revenue with that wouldn't cost us a lot, should look sooner than later. I mentioned Matthew on the presentation, and also great things about Matt out the community. We'll totally dealt with him in his position, and just say thank you very much.
Commissioner Lapine, can you repeat that last part of what you said, because you broke up terribly? You appreciated the presentation, and
can you hear me now?
Yes, sir, we can.
I would just want to say that I've heard nothing but great things about Matthew in the community, and just wanted to say that thank you very much for the presentation. Great job. And also to say that I've heard good things about the job that he's doing, and it's great to have him with us.
Thank you, sir. And thank you again, Matthew, for the presentation. I think your next item, Chairman Lapine.
Yeah, next item is going to be an action item, but I think, Lakita, you're going to present kind of the COVID-19 update and your reopening strategies.
Yes, sir. We did send the board. Please let me know, did you all receive the packet for the reopening strategy, which should have included from the beginning all the way all of our supporting documentation? We are now moving into phase 4. We have created a very good relationship and collaboration with our partners, which include the Richland Library, along with the City of Columbia, as we start rolling these things out. We do not take this lightly, but it felt really good yesterday to see that our numbers in South Carolina are finally dropping. So we were a little bit under 600. We feel confident that we can come back and do so safely. Throughout the document, we share with you how we do that. But today, I just want to give you a brief overview, and then Chairman Lapine, I would like to entertain a motion to accept the plan so that it can be a part of our policy. With that, we are looking to move forward with opening up the playgrounds, as well as limited senior programs and classes. The team and I have been working very diligently in identifying modifications for those programs and activities that are allowable, but then there are some that we're not comfortable with moving forward with. We are looking to incorporate after-school/learning centers at 10 of our facilities. These facilities will be limited to the number of children, but we feel that it will assist our citizens and our parents with getting back to work, as well as our children with having access to Wi-Fi during the time that we're doing virtual schooling. Lastly, we are looking to modify the hours of operations for our facilities so that we can ensure safe and sanitized sites. Those facilities, we have 10 facilities that we are looking to do our learning centers / after school programs. Those facilities from September through December, with the exception of small exceptions, very small exceptions, we do not look to do anything at those facilities but after school. The CDC recommends where you bring children into a facility that you do not do cross activities. So we've identified those recreation centers that focus during our summer months as well for summer camps. And those sites will open back up from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. All other parks and recreation centers that do not have the after school will open from 12 noon to 9 p.m., which will offer still open recreation to our citizens. And with the exception of Bluff Road Park. Bluff Road Park will open 8:30 a.m. until 9 o'clock p.m. The community centers will open for rentals only, with the exception of Valentine and Pine Grove. The adult activity centers will operate at 8 a.m. to 6 p.m., and the technology centers will operate from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Included in all of your documentation, we have the breakdowns for our sanitation schedules, our PPE requirements, as well as the COVID waiver and the expectations for employees as they are returning. We are excited. Our citizens are ready to come back, and we feel that we can do so as safely as possible at this time. So with that, we would like to entertain a motion. Chairman Lapine, if you could entertain a motion to accept the Richland County Recreation Commission's reopening strategy.
Do we have discussion? Do we take the motion first and then have discussion?
Yes, sir. I think that's how it would work, if I'm not mistaken, Mayor Coble.
That's right. You could have the discussion, and then why don't you have the discussion, and if something needs to be changed in the motion beyond just accepting the report, you could make that motion then.
Okay.
So then let's just have discussion,
Yeah.
commissioners, and then we can, I'll make a motion to talk about Lakita's proposal.
All right. Yeah, have we reached out to Richland 1 and Richland 2 about any sort of transportation partnership where they can transport some of these kids directly from the schools to these facilities, you know, the ones that are involved with this program here? Just wondering.
Yes, sir. But they're still working out transportation just for their students right now. So we do have an open dialogue, and once they finalize what it looks like for them, we're hoping that they'll be able to transport. In addition, we do have 3, if not 4, minibuses. So we're looking to utilize them as well where we can for transportation for our children.
Okay.
I have a question.
Commissioner Johnson, were you done?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This is
Commissioner
Donzetta. I
Lindsay?
have a question. Okay. Who will be testing? Will these children and staff members be tested before they're allowed in the center?
There will be a waiver where the parents have to state whether or not the youth have been exposed or have been quarantined, and temperature checks will be done every single day.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Any other questions? I've got a question, actually. Just as kind of and it was kind of spelled out in your plan, but just as an example, somebody called me today and asked about volleyball. I mean, not volleyball, softball at North Springs. Will that open up there where they can practice now?
Yes, sir. That is a part of it. It's been laid out the way that we bought them back. We bought Trenum back, and we bought another group back. But yes, sir, Matthew is working directly with those organizations to ensure that they understand the social distancing, PPE, and those things as well.
So if they call me and ask me,
Send them to Matthew. He's ready.
send it to
He's
Matthew. So if I could
Yes.
give Matthew's email, I'll just
Yes, sir.
bypass and say, and I'll copy you on it. Or it could be the same with other commissioners because I'm sure they're going to get the call.
Definitely.
So let's just, if it's athletics related, give it to Matthew and CC Jamie or you, whoever you want, but just to expedite it. Okay,
Yes,
that's,
sir.
so I think,
I'm going to send all my emails to Rob, and then Rob, you can send them to Matthew.
thanks, Jermaine. I think we're good on mine. So does Thomas or Lisa have any questions? If not, then I'll go ahead and put that to a vote. Give you
So
about
there's someone that
5.
would make that motion for.
I think Lisa
I have
just-
a question
Sure.
in that Richland 2 is still online and not doing stuff. I guess kind of what I'm asking is do you really feel comfortable with us coming back? I guess I'm just kind of getting you to I don't know.
Yes, sir. We're limited down to 20 children. So, we have a better controlled system, unfortunately, than the classrooms do. The classrooms
Okay.
are harder to social distance. We're utilizing our gymnasium for the program, not our classrooms.
That's great. All right. Thank you.
You're
I'm good.
welcome.
Lisa, were you going to say something? I saw that you had unmuted.
Yeah, no, I was actually going to make the motion that we accept the reopening strategy that's been presented.
Please do that.
Yeah, so I make the motion.
Any seconds?
I second.
Okay. Cornelia?
Okay, I'm gonna call the roll. Lapine,
Yes.
Lindsay,
I'm not sure about it, but I guess yes. I'm not too comfortable with it because I know the numbers went down, but they said that's because the testing went down. They didn't do as many tests as they had been doing. So naturally, the number's going to go down if they don't do the same amount of tests.
Well, Donzetta, we're taking a vote, yes or no. We got to discuss that when we're having discussion. I'm trying to do a better job of the Roberts rules here. So if you want to say no, I mean, we just got to, if you're not comfortable, bring it up when I ask for discussion. That's all.
I'm not comfortable with it, so no for me.
Okay.
thank you. Coach V? Coach V?
I'm going to go no also.
Okay. Cotton? Cotton?
Yes, I'm sorry, I was trying to take it off mute. Yes.
Okay. Clark?
No.
What was that?
No.
Okay. Johnson?
Yes.
Okay, so let's see. 1, 2, 3. All right, so Mayor Bob, we've got 3 no, 3 and 3 yay. How does that work?
And 3 yays would be a no vote. Might I suggest that, wait a minute, can you hear me?
Yes.
Might I suggest we go back for discussion to see if the no votes had any questions or amendments or anything of that nature?
Okay.
Since we probably
Yeah,
need
that's what.
to have some direction.
Yeah,
One way.
so let's open back for discussion. And Donzetta, since you're the first no, let's hear from your exactly how you feel, and then let Lakita respond, and we'll go from there.
Well, as I stated, COVID-19, our numbers are still up and we're still in a hot spot. And I just feel until the numbers go down, I'd feel safer for the children and the community and the seniors opening up at that point, which may be a month or it may be 6 months from now. I just don't feel comfortable right now with opening up, with the reopening.
Okay.
That's it.
I'd like to add something. and I understand the concern, because you all know that I've been on board with keeping things closed. But I feel like if our schools are going to be opened back up, then we need to help accommodate some of these parents who have to go back to work, and have to work. And if our schools are going part-time or even going full-time or whatever's going on, these parents will have to leave, at 2:30 or whatever to get their children, and then to figure out that whole situation. It's already a difficult situation for everybody. And I just feel like this here will help alleviate some of the stress that everybody's feeling right now because of the situation and trying to figure out the right thing to do. So, if we're limiting doing the social distancing, we're limiting the contact, and we're taking all the necessary precautions and things like that, I just think it would be more of an assistance to our parents rather than, we should be more of an assistance rather than hindering the progression.
This is Lisa. I agree with Jermaine on that. And also the use of the technology centers, because it will be either hybrid or you'll have a lot of kids doing the e-learning. They will need access to the Wi-Fi and technology centers as well, with school reopening at the end of the month.
Thomas?
I'm very concerned about the numbers from the standpoint of, like Commissioner Lindsay brings up an excellent point, that I don't believe our numbers are actually down. Our percent positive is still in the 15 to 20% most of the time. It's just that our governor and our state has made a decision to limit access to testing. So if we operate from the premise that the numbers are down, I'm not quite sure that is not a faulty premise. And that's my concern. I have full confidence in Lakita and her team's ability to execute a reopening plan that will be safe for our community. But I am very concerned that the premise that we're using is one that the numbers are down. And so that's how I feel.
Thomas?
Yeah, having worked, I'm knowing that I work for the county, we're not open back up yet. I was on a call last week with the representative from Richland 1 and Richland 2 superintendents, and they're not comfortable with the kids coming back. I don't see how we could be comfortable opening back up, and county council is not even opening the county up. I mean, I'm in my office today, but the courthouse is not open to the general public because of the COVID numbers. And I don't feel comfortable bringing kids in, because if we get an outbreak, then we're going to have to shut it right back down as well.
I don't think any of us are comfortable opening back up, to be honest. It's just being more of an assistance to what we have going on. So I think if the school shut back down, then we should definitely shut back down. So I mean, it's just I don't think we're assisting anybody by staying closed and the schools opening back up, or vice versa. If we open up and the schools close down, I mean, I just think it's a hand-to-hand.
But the schools are not opening up fully. They're still doing virtual classes. Like I said, I was on a call last week with both superintendents.
So, just my
the school
2
districts
cents.
in Richland County are on virtual learning until September 15th, and after September 15th, they're in discussion to open back up. I'm sorry, Rob. Go ahead.
No, my only take here is I think that we've got a lot of people that we want to put to work, and I think it's very important to try to get back to normal. And everybody's, Jermaine's, I fall on the side of where Jermaine is at, and Lisa, because I really want to get, I think that if we practice the proper social distancing, the proper procedures to get some kids back into the technology centers, to, get kids back on the fields, practicing their sports. I think it's just very important to try to do that. And I think, I guess I'm one that's had the COVID and now know the intricacies of how it affects you. And it's a serious thing. And I would take it that if there is any positives that Lakita's got and the crew have got the proper procedures and which way to handle it. So I would vote still to move forward with the plan, but I'll defer to my fellow commissioners here.
And if we could, if as you all look at this, and Mayor Bob, if you can help me, if there are portions, if you're saying that you do not want after school because of the kids, and we want to take that out, or if you're saying that you do not want me to open up, period, I just need some direction, because it is a little difficult, because we're allowing the community leads to use our facilities, to work with children, to do things, and then we as a commission, we're not doing anything. So it puts me in a tough situation, because we're allowing usage, but we're not controlling our own usage. So the clearer the direction I can give that to my staff. And in addition, because we were looking at even classes and things that we felt we could, which would then impact the revenues. So if we're saying that we're not going to open up at all and you still want me to stay shut down, we will do what's asked, but I must share that then that will take you out of August and September and possibly October revenues.
And can we possibly, and I'll defer to Mayor Bob next, but could we possibly let the commissioners look very closely at the documents over the next 24 hours, call another special called meeting on Wednesday? Anybody can call you to discuss their thoughts, and maybe table the discussion until Wednesday. Okay. And then, if my fellow commissioners agree, fine. But I think that I'd like everybody to make their opinion and have some maybe discussion with you to talk about this, maybe privately, and then bring it together as a board to, maybe we need to move ahead some way. And I'm very concerned about the budget, guys. And like you said, I don't know how we can miss 3 more months unless we get some sort of money from the government. So I think it's very important to maybe all of us put our heads together and try to help you move ahead, but yet I 100% respect everybody's opinion here. So I don't want to say something that I shouldn't or do something that we shouldn't.
I'd like to talk about 3 possible amendments that I'm concerned about. Number one, with COVID, I'm very concerned about us having our seniors and our elderly people indoors. And so I don't know if it would be considered to have an amendment where we don't have people over the age of 50 doing indoor activities. I do think that it's important that we look at amending to possibly allow high school and college age students, or people who have a high school or college ID or middle school ID, access into the technology center so that they can continue their education and have access to that. And then the other thing would be just anything indoors. I get skittish about. And so I guess it's just 2 amendments. Possibly if we looked at something involving age and access to indoor facilities, and then the second one would be to open the technology centers for people who have like a middle school, high school, or college ID. I don't know if that makes sense to anybody, but I'll just let you know.
It does. It was just brought to my attention today. I did not even realize it, Coach B, that there is an age restriction on the technology facility that would keep a high schooler from being able to go in the facility without their parents. So that is actually a very good thing that you've identified, because we do need to look at that policy. So thank you.
I'm not big on the 50-year-old thing. I mean, come on, Jermaine. Jeez. I mean, Steve.
It wasn't Jermaine.
Leave me alone.
I have a comment. I think as long as Richland County office is closed, that we shouldn't open anything. Once they open back up to the public, I feel more secure opening up the parks to the public.
I think that we need to be mindful, because we do use different strategies, and they don't open up to the public for activities. They open up to the public strictly from the tax paying, the customer exchange. So if they open back up, they're going to open up to only the people that are walking in their building. and they don't do programs. I just want to make sure that we understand that clarification.
Yeah, I think that I think that if the schools are open, and we should open. The schools closed, we should close. And if the schools do something different, then we should do something different. I think this should be a conversation that we have with other members of the Richland 1 and Richland 2. So if they're going to be half day, then we should look at our stuff as well.
Jermaine, what do you mean by that? Like from a virtual standpoint or in person?
Yeah, if the schools are virtual, then we should not be opening it up because they wouldn't be going back to school. But if the schools are opening and there's in-person learning and things like that, then I think we should work with the schools in terms of helping to accommodate some of these parents that are going back to work. Because of that situation, it's like the children, they have to have somewhere to go, and it'll be more difficult. I mean, you have to think about what the parents are going to have to go through in this situation, in this current climate. So if we're having after school stuff and we're taking the necessary precautions, I think we should work with the school system in order to alleviate some of the pressures that the parents are already going through.
So does a motion need to be done, Mayor Bob, about the postponing the vote until a special call meeting on Wednesday? How do we move forward?
Here's what I would suggest. I mean, what y'all are talking about, every entity in America is talking about. And, you got governors and even, dare I say, presidents, intervening about when and pushing folks. And so getting this right, I think, is very important, and taking a little time to make sure everybody's comfortable, I think, makes sense. I think what I would do is track down information about, District 1 and 2, so you know exactly what they're doing, when their next decision will be. I think talking to DHEC, because as Donzetta said, the key number, I think, is going to be that.
I can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah.
The key number will be, an infection rate, and make sure, get any information there. Let everybody look at it and have another discussion. I think Wednesday or maybe even Thursday. This one's too important. Too much is on the line. Need to get it right. Take your time and make sure, you're as close to a consensus as you possibly can be. And I think I would encourage all the individual commissioners to call Lakita and, make sure that questions are answered or concerns, if information has to be, followed up on, that you would have it available. That may be a little too much for Wednesday, but I'd say Wednesday, Thursday or Friday.
Maybe next Monday again.
Right. That's better for me.
I think so. I mean, this is an important one, and, take your time and get it right.
Okay. We'll move forward with getting that scheduled for
So,
next Monday.
Lakita,
Yes,
could
sir.
I, just as a point of information, we're in, like, as far as the phase, we're in a phase 3 within our, are you in a phase 3 situation right now?
Phase 4 was mid-August through late August, early September.
Oh, and then you're talking about just complete opening now.
Yes.
I mean, from phase 4 to just a new, we're voting on to go from phase 4 to.
Look at phase 4. So you're really voting on you're voting on the entire plan, because I never had that done. And I want that plan to be, put as a part of our history of how we handle COVID. So the vote is also on how do we come back to work, which would be September 8th. That was my recommendation. And all of those things that are in that document, specifically phase 4. If you look at phase 4, it covers everything from all the other pages.
Because the reason I say that, it's important for everybody to understand that we're in some form of a phase that, like baseball, just to bring that up, we're at a baseball phase where we followed the rules. And you remember we had the discussions several meetings ago about, following the rules.
Wearing masks, yes.
Yeah, so we're talking about still that, but getting more into the indoors and moving completely through your proposal, I guess. which would need some adjustment for the teens in the technology center.
Yes,
So like Mayor Bob said, I'd encourage each and every member
please read it.
to read it very thoroughly and then either email or call Lakita. And, you know, I don't know, Lakita, I guess if you want to change the plan before we present it on Monday, if you
Based off
feel
the
like you have
feedback.
discussions.
If I get the feedback and there are some changes or questions
Yes.
or concerns, yes, sir, I have absolutely no problem in doing that. I'll actually, since I'll have a week, maybe I'll do a couple of scenarios so that gives the board a specific thing to vote on, because it is important to us. We do have
So
employees
just
that-
to make communication completely thorough with everybody here, if everybody feels confident on this call, maybe ask Lakita when a good time for you to call her, you know, after you've had a day or two to review it, so that we're all on the same page, or email her, however you want to do it. But I'd encourage everybody to have a discussion with Lakita, and then hopefully, you know, by next Monday, she could change the plan if it needs it, or we just stick with it, and then we'll take a vote again. But we do need to, like you said, September 8th is coming up, and we need to get planning. So I would hope that maybe we can meet next Monday at 1 o'clock just to discuss this issue, if everybody's okay with it.
Rob, can I make
Yes.
a suggestion? Instead of calling Lakita, I'm thinking it would be best if the questions or concerns were emailed, so when she answers, she can copy all board members so everybody gets the same information. Instead of a one-on-one, you know, if you've got questions or concerns, email her, and that way she's able to answer, and all board members or commissioners see the answer.
I agree, but I got a but on that, is that sometimes discussing, if it's an important enough email that you all want to talk to Lakita, sometimes putting two heads together comes up with a good solution. So, you know, if you feel like you can do it in the email, I agree with you. I'd like to see what all the questions and concerns and answers are, but
I'll do that.
I don't want to overload with emails and calls and all that. So however you want to do it, that's fine. But sometimes I do better on the phone than in writing. I'm just not as articulate writing. Okay.
Cornelia and I will coordinate and reach out to the board members to get the feedback.
Perfect.
And we will compile the information and then make any recommendations based off of the information. But the entire board will see all of the questions. So then there may be a question that you may want to ask Rob that has already been asked by Lisa that is taken.
Correct. Yeah,
So
that's
we will do
perfect.
that.
Yep.
We will do that.
So Mayor Bob, should we just table the discussion till next Monday?
Table the vote.
Yeah, I think, yeah, you don't really have to table it. Just you can end the discussion with no action and put it back on the agenda for next week.
Perfect. Okay. So with that said, we'll end the discussion on the reopening strategy, and I'll make a motion that we go into, oh, excuse me, stop. We need Jamie to present the in-person board meeting for the month of September.
And this won't take long at all, sir. Jamie? Commissioner Lapine, as you stated, you wanted us to go do some research to bring back the possibility of us coming to an in-person meeting. Jamie has identified, along with our information technology team, a way that we can do that. Jamie?
Yes, ma'am. Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, and to the rest of the commissioners. Thank you for the opportunity to share what we have compiled here. If you'll just give me a moment and I will share my screen. All right, so everyone can see my screen?
Yes, ma'am.
No, I can't.
Not? Okay, everyone can see it now?
No. It went back to Zoom for me.
Go do the same thing you did previously.
I think Zoom still didn't do anything.
And your screen is still maximized?
Yep, okay, hold on a minute. Okay, I got it, got you back now.
Awesome. All right. So there was an inquiry in regards to allowing the public to not only participate, but provide public input for our September board meeting. And on July 29th, our governor announced that entities such as ours would have to use the mandatory guidelines that have been established, and they took effect on Monday, August the 3rd. So that's Executive Order 2020-50. And with that, 50% of the certificate of occupancy issued by the fire marshal are allowed to be in the building. Everyone that comes into the building or participate is required to wear a mask, and that we are to enact social distancing, cleaning, and hygiene practices as recommended by Accelerate SC. Also, if you're looking at some of the guidelines, we were looking at the CDC as well as South Carolina DHEC, but our governor has established a website that has condensed some of the guidelines based upon different activities and entities on Accelerate SC. And so with those considerations, we would change the way the room would be set up. Of course, the desk where the commissioners are seated is stationary. So we would bring the commissioners down on the floor and make sure they were socially distanced, sitting at individual tables, because our tables are 8 feet. So that would ensure the 6 feet social distance. We would ask our safety monitors to stand at our board entrance door as well as the main entrance, because the capacity for that room would be 20 people. We would have to have some of our staff there that would be running the cameras and equipment. And then of course, with our executive director and executive assistant and anyone else on the staff that would need to make reports, they would be in that room. The tables would be in a U shape, and we would actually have 3 cameras that would be running, but we would also have a black drape that would cover the entranceway. And of course, we'd have that safety monitor there because our commissioners' backs would be to the door. So we want to make sure that there would not be any interruptions while the meeting is going on. So this is kind of just a little quick overview of how the tables would be set up, and that we would have the cameras actually on the desk along with televisions in the room as well. So you could also see the people that would be interested in doing community input. Our public and citizens would be able to sit in the banquet hall. So they would not be allowed in the boardroom, but in the banquet hall, we would have a capacity of 50 people, and they would be socially distanced and required to wear a mask. However, when they got up to speak, they could remove their mask, but we would have them to sign up via email at least by 12 noon, or they could sign up when they come. However, the building is limited to 50 people. So once we've reached that capacity, no one would be able to sign up. However, if there was someone that wanted to do public input and they could not come, they could sign up via email by 12 noon on the Friday, and we would be able to acknowledge them during that meeting. And so I've put our information, RCRC email address that comes to the Community Relations Division, where we would submit that information to Ms. Korn. And I'm sure people would like to call in to do that. However, emails will give us a date and a timestamp. And so we would request that the citizens would submit their name and location, and of course their phone number, so that we could recognize that phone number when it is time for them to be acknowledged and continue the flow of the meeting.
Thank you, Jamie. So Commissioner Lapine, members of the board, this is the information that you requested. You do not have to make that decision today, but it would be good for us to know if you would like for us to move forward with the in-person meeting. We just need to get some things in place and ensure that we are prepared.
I'm a senior citizen. This is Donzetta, and I do not feel comfortable going into the session like that. I mean, churches aren't even open now. So I do not feel comfortable about going into the community board meeting.
So Commissioner Chairman Lapine, we put this back on you all. I don't think that it requires a vote, or it may, because we were planning to do virtual. If you would like for us to start back the in-person
It
meeting.
sounds like we'll do virtual obviously next Monday, and then I would assume that our third Monday of September is somewhere around the 20th, or I don't know, but in that 18th to 21st range or something like that. But maybe we'll just bring that up at the, I guess we could put that on the agenda for Monday if we want to take a vote on it. Likewise, if anybody wants to have any discussion about it, I would assume that we need to all be, I'd like a vote of, I'd like everybody to vote the same way on that, just because it's so important for all of us to be on the same page. And if Donzetta doesn't feel comfortable, and, I as much as I want to get a free meal, I just have to hold off, I guess.
Okay, we will add that to the agenda, sir.
Okay. All right, with that, if nobody else wants to discuss that, then I'll just make just say that, do I make I do have to make a motion for us to go into executive session.
Yes,
Or
sir.
I
We
get
need
to make that motion.
We need that motion. Yes, sir.
Yep.
I make a motion that we go into executive session to discuss legal matters.
A second.
Okay, I'm gonna call the roll. Lapine,
Yes.
Lindsay,
Yes.
Coach V. Coach V,
He's still muted.
still muted. Cotton,
Yes.
Clark,
Yes.
Johnson,
Hello?
Coach V.
Coach V?
Yes.
Okay. Dr. Johnson?
Yeah.
Okay, all right, motion passed to move into executive session to get legal updates.